We start with a brand new plain React Native project that just prints out hello world. Linear gradient can be used on both Expo and plain React Native projects. The API is identical, but the installation instructions are different. If you're using Expo, you'll need to install it using expo install Expo Linear Gradient and import the library from Expo Linear Gradient. This project is using plain React Native, so we will use React Native Linear Gradient, which can be installed using yarn or npm. We'll copy the yarn command and paste it into our terminal. Now, since this project is also using native modules, we will have to cd into the iOS directory and run pod install to install the libraries on iOS. An easy way to tell whether an open source library involves native code is if they have an iOS and an Android directory in their codebase. After that, we'll go back to a root directory and run npx react native run iOS to rebuild our project. Now that the project has been rebuilt, let's import linear gradient from React Native Linear Gradient. Remember, if you're using Expo, you will have to import this from Expo Linear Gradient instead, and it's a named export rather than a default one. The rest of the API is the same. Let's do linear gradient, and let's pass in some colors. I'm going to do an array of pink, purple, and blue. If I need to give this a size, let's do gradient and a height of 200 and a width of 200. Now let's pass this style using the style prop, style equals styles dot gradient, and save. Now we have a square with a vertical gradient. Now going back to the documentation, we can see that we can adjust the direction of the gradient using the start and the end properties. So let's do start equals x0, y0, and end equals x0, y1, and save. You notice that nothing actually happened because that is the default value, but changing this to 0, 1, 0, 0, will reverse the direction of the gradient, so it goes from bottom to top. Changing this to 0, 0, 1, 0 will have the gradient go from left to right, and changing this to 1, 0, 0, 1 will have it go right to left. Changing this to 1, 0, 0, 1 will make the gradient diagonal, and the same for 0, 1, 1, 0. These values can be tweaked as much as you want based on the gradient that you need. Let's go back to 0, 0, 1, 0. So the gradient goes from left to right. You can also pass children inside this linear gradient. Now to make this a rainbow button, we could pass in all the colors of the rainbow. Let's make the height a little bit shorter, so let's maybe do 80. Let's do justify content center, align items center, and border radius 10. And let's pass in a text inside. So let's do a text and rainbow. And let's make this text white. So let's do styles text, and let's do text with color white and font size 24. Now after saving this, we have a linear gradient with the word rainbow inside. The white text is a little bit hard to make out, but you can also apply a text shadow of black and a text shadow radius of 2.